Bravo radio on Detroit. I'm being out right over the target right now. I've got a 17 right in front of me. I'm going after him.
Welcome to the Lead Pursuit Podcast. Tonight we have a little bit varied content. We're going to talk amongst Chris, Brett, and I for a little while, and then we're going to turn to one of the interviews we did last week talking to the crew from Fights On. But first of all, I want to welcome Chris to the call.
What's up, man?
How's everything in Michigan?
Everything's going. Just it's trips to Lowe's and freaking working on the house because there's nothing else to do.
I'm so glad you're authorized to do home improvement projects. That's
dude,
awesome.
The hobby space is getting the bomb.
I hate you. I'm jealous. Mine
These
just
bookshelves. All my Osprey books are like perfectly arranged. It's just, yeah, I'm so happy.
Well, Brett, are you getting jealous? How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. I need, not that I really want to do a whole makeover, but I'd like to get another display cabinet. My display case is getting full of airplanes.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing the other day. I've got, because all of my Horus Heresy crap, I'm actually looking at one of those IKEA freaking little square ones. Just getting that for just Blood Red Skies. So, because the other one's just full.
Yeah, I picked up another one of the low display cases to make my hobby table. So my 3-foot by 5-foot hobby table is made out of another one of those World Market glassed-in display case desk returns, whatever you want to call it. And that's been wonderful, although it was just stupid expensive. I'm like, why couldn't I just go buy the IKEA wall cabinets because they're cheap? But it's because I'm dumb. So, hey, we know that.
Those Deltop cases are pretty freaking bulletproof. I mean, I love my huge trophy case that I got, which that's definitely the way to go if you got the space. But the those IKEA Deltop cases, they're awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm in the process of totally redoing this office up here. Part of it was to be able to do the podcast, to be able to live stream, to be able to shoot video, all the things I wanted to do that it wasn't set up for. So, it's taking time for all of us while we're doing nothing else other than staring at the four walls to rip those four walls down and put something else up. But that's awesome. So a lot of intel this week, a lot of things going on. It's been kind of funny for me to see FLGS's, your friendly local gaming stores, starting to open up. People starting to do a little bit of gaming out there back in person. And at the same time, it's been kind of interesting to see how many other people have given in and started playing Tabletop Sim. I'm talking about you guys, VGR Podcast. Yeah, veteran gamers, re-enlisted. You finally sucked it up and joined us in TTS, you bastards. So, it's one of those things. I understand a lot of people have a hang-up with playing things virtually, and it doesn't, quote, feel the same. But when you're jonesing and you want to push miniatures around a table, virtual miniatures work pretty darn good for the plastic ones. Brett, I know you've been doing a ton of stuff.
Oh, my God, I've been loving it, man.
Yeah, you ditched us the other night. Nice. I thought the loyalty to the podcast, Brett comes up, hey, can we record early, guys? Oh, yeah, you're probably doing something nice with your wife. You're going to sit around the pool drinking beers. No, you're playing a campaign on Tabletop Sim. Nice. Thanks.
I know.
Thanks a
ever
lot.
since Steve and I started this campaign, I pretty much all day long when we're not playing, I'm thinking about the next game. So he says he's doing the same thing too. So we're wanting to play a lot.
Man, that's one of the things I love about campaigns. I guess I should say I love and hate about them. It's kind of like prepping for a con, prepping a competitive list. You're constantly thinking about, oh crap, what am I going to do for the next one? Hey, I lost these guys. I've got new pilots, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really excited to watch you guys go through that campaign. And while I'm not quite there, ready to do that yet, I still have a lot of other Blood Red Skies duties I'm trying to knock out. I'm kind of jealous and wish I was playing a campaign.
Yeah, when we get the games played, I can give you kind of the synopsis of what's happened in the campaign so far since our last episode. It's been pretty fun. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that in a bit. First up, I do want to talk about some of the intel out there. So once again, we've talked about it a couple times. Kevin at Miscellaneous Minis, the crew over at AIM, the crew at Warlord, everybody is slowly getting back into the grind or is backed up. So everybody be patient. I was listening to the Snafu podcast tonight, and they were talking about Warlord probably having 3 guys running 3 shifts. So in other words, 1 person per shift pulling orders, and the fact that everything's going to be a little bit delayed. So we know that we are getting direct shipments now from Warlord. They're probably running about 2 weeks behind. So that's fine. deal with it. I know, Brett, you've already been spending your money out at Noble Knight and some of my other favorite places to drop my paycheck. So you've been ordering a few new miniatures.
That's right. I just today got a box of ordered a box of 109Gs, the last box that they had at Noble Knight. So I grabbed those up, and I'll get to use those at our virtual thing in June. And then I also recently I had some Amazon credits, so I snapped up like 3 of the German Aces that were on Amazon. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, what have you picked up or seen lately that you've been coveting and just haven't pulled the trigger on ordering?
It's honestly, we just talked about miscellaneous minis, but I just picked up a butt ton of freaking decals from Kevin. So he got all the 47 ones are up there, but he's got some new Focal 190 ones. They're just super sweet. He's got some new 109 ones up. He did the decals for the book that we were talking about, A Higher Call.
Right.
So you've got like a B-17 and a 109 on the same freaking decal sheet. He's just been cranking stuff out, and it's awesome. He's got looks like he's got some new B-17. Oh, he's got some other ones too. He's got another section of B-17 ones that are up now. So yeah, if you haven't been in miscellaneous minis, definitely go over there and give it a try. So I've just got to get back to painting stuff. Right now, I've just been all the home stuff has been taking priority. So as soon as I get this stuff knocked out, and I've got because right now my whole hobby room is torn apart. So it's I don't
Oh,
even
pobrecito. His hobby
everything's
basement is torn apart. Not hobby room, hobby basement. Please.
So it's kind of funny the way I did it. The wife really wants the game room done where the pool table is. And I was kind of like, I haven't done any inlaid cabinets like that before. So how about if I experiment on
Oh, you're such a
hobby room?
fucking cheese ball. Nice work. Nice.
Totally
Nicely done.
worked, dude. She was like, oh yeah, that's cool. So I'm doing all these inlaid bookshelves.
Nice.
Like, oh man, your work looks really nice. And I was like, yeah, I'm figuring out how we're going to do the other room. So, but the only thing is I got to do the guest room and the game room too. So, but I'll get back at it soon.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sheer brilliance. Nice work. Well, yeah. So as we're all trying to get ready for the virtual gathering of eagles, I know we've been picking up miniatures. We talked a little bit in the break beforehand about some things that we're going to try to do. But for everybody out there, if you haven't gone to sign up yet, it is live. It's on Facebook. You can go to our website and see how to sign up for it. You can go to Facebook and see the link on our Lead Pursuit podcast page. Go sign up. It's free. You can tell us what you want to participate in. It's not like you're actually signing up for courses or seminars. That way we just kind of get a feeling of what people are interested in. If everyone says, I really don't want to hear Doug talk tactics, but Brett and Chris painting, yeah, I want to go to those classes. We'll have a bunch of different 1-hour kind of classes, discussions, things like that via either Google Meet and Zoom and Discord. And then obviously people will be playing Tabletop Sim. I pretty much have gotten suckered into giving the virtual demo, and that's fine. So we'll do that if you're not a Tabletop Sim person and you will see what it's about. Show up to the first part of the virtual con and watch me get tabled by Brett, because Brett's been playing a lot more World War II than I have.
No, I haven't. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm kind of getting beat pretty good, right?
I don't know. I my streak just it failed on Monday. Roger pretty much knocked the pants off me in our Vietnam playtesting. And so it was pretty embarrassing. I had been used to beating him, and I can't blame the rules, because the rules are exactly where we wanted them to be. So while anyone who may have been in the happy hour last Friday may have heard me being very negative about some of the things about the rules, it is just because of the things we've cut out. So if you weren't there on that happy hour Google Meet, the thing I was trying to tell people is I tried to manage expectations. Don't expect this to be all of Vietnam. This is just MiGs and F4s mixing it up. So it's really canned. And the last couple times we've played, it has been a lot of fun. So I think we're getting close to a good product to hand off to Andy. Let Andy do his part as the overall game designer and go, that's the dumbest idea ever, Doug. I don't know why Roger signed up for that. Throw all of our stuff out and start all over. But I think we have something that'll give people a pretty cool Vietnam flavor to the game. But I have to actually start looking at World War II stuff again so I don't get totally crushed the first weekend in June when we're playing Malta and all those different scenarios. All right, so moving on. I know you guys have been doing some hobbying. I still haven't. My horrible excuse is all the other work I've been doing, but you guys have been working on a couple different things from what I've seen on Facebook.
I just finished 3 DO17s just today, actually, and I prepped and undercoated another B29. So kind of rocking and rolling on that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I just finished a couple DO17s, but those were courtesy of Steve Toth, and they were online. So by the time this podcast drops, anyone who is playing on Tabletop Sim will notice, hey, my models changed. Yes, they did. So you now have models that flip forward and backward, just like an advantage stand should. And so you're not pivoting the model, you're pivoting the advantage stand. And I can't say enough nice things, how much I owe Steve for getting that done. I think I took about 2 years off his life with the project. I know, Brett, you probably saw him losing his mind a couple times as you're trying to make the flight stands work and everything during your game. But he has done an amazing job getting that all to be just like it is on the tabletop.
How about that new collision mechanic? Is that in there yet?
Oh yeah, it is. So I uploaded that today. I'm importing it to some of the playtest mechanic stuff. So if you're on the playtest team, know your big F4s and F105s and MiGs aren't going to knock each other over. So I can't say enough. I owe Steve hugely. So when I don't have to see him virtually, I'll owe him a beer. Until then, I'll buy him O'Doul's because O'Doul's is virtual beer, I guess. Okay, that was a dumb joke, but hey. But yeah, so it's amazing, and all that's in the sim live as of today. So you should see it before the podcast comes out, and be able to play with a lot more aircraft and a furball.
Yeah, I mean, on my side, I got the LA5s done through the flurry wash process. I've just got some sealing to do, and I'm going to finish canopies on them. I got my last 2 Mossies done in the Polish paint scheme. So those guys just need they need to have their canopies finished, and they need to be clear coated. And I ran into the weirdest thing, and I was going to ask Brett if he'd run into it before. We always use the Vallejo real metal freaking paint for doing our chromes and stuff like that. And I love the stuff. But for the first time, when I did a 47 as a test model the other day, I wanted to do a nice shiny jug, and it just, something about it, somewhere in the process, I got a spider web all over the model. And it's really tiny, and I didn't really notice it until I put the flurry wash over it. And the second I put the flurry wash over it, it was like every default or defect in the paint job just like jumped out at me. So that thing went in the purple power, and I just wanted to see if that had been something you would ever run into, Brett. I think it was something between the paint and the gloss coat that I put on to seal it.
Yeah, wow, I've never had that happen before with that combination. So I'm guessing you used an airbrush to put it on, right?
So yeah, I mean, well, it was the rattle can, because we've been doing the rattle can primers, and I was using the nice Rust-Oleum gloss coat.
No, I mean the paint color.
Yeah, the paint went on. Yeah, I used the black undercoat with a gloss paint, the way it's recommended to apply. By the way, if you're applying those real metal colors, make sure you're putting a gloss black down first. If you put a regular black primer down, it just doesn't do the same things for you. But I did everything the way I normally do it, and I don't know if it was something maybe in the priming. It could have been anything. Could have been the priming process. Could have been anywhere in there. But like I said, the flurry wash was when it jumped out at me. It was like, oh no, that's junk. So because I do my flurry after I do decals, because I want the flurry to sit on top, especially where there's a panel line going through decal. And so it was like, yeah, so a whole set of 47 decals, just wipe those away, just in the purple power, and scrub it off and start over. I'll let you guys know if I run into it again. But it was a first time for me running into that kind of thing, and that's why I always do a test model. So it's like when I'm doing a new paint process, a new aircraft, I just want to see what everything sets up like, and then I do the rest of them. But I'm glad I did it this time, especially because I would have cried if I was stripping 6 of them.
Well, let me be perfectly honest. I don't want lockdown to end. I just want to get done with this damn tabletop sim project so I can start going back to hobbying. I don't know what it's like to put decals on and gloss coat and put flurry wash on right now. So I should be done. There's like one more week of real work on this TTS thing, and then I think it'll be up and as far as at least Warlord will let us go, which I'll make the point again, like I did last week. If you like what we have, make sure you send an email to info@warlordgames.com and tell them how great the tabletop sim is, and that it's not going to stop you from buying models. In fact, you've just gone out and ordered 17 different boxes of miniatures. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration. But my point is, there is a concern at Warlord that virtual things will override plastic and resin things, and it certainly won't in my world, because I really want to stop playing with the virtual things and get back to the plastic and resin. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
No, I really want to do some tabletop stuff. I mean, not just Blood Red Skies, but I've got some friends over in Lansing, and now that I'm getting all the rooms done, it's like I cannot wait to invite them over. Brian Force, shout out to you, dude. As soon as this is over, we're getting to get a down dirty freaking Mechanicum versus freaking Death.
Whoa! I don't want to know what you're doing in your basement, getting down and dirty. I don't want to know.
No, I can't wait to roll dice again. It's just that's the one thing that's been really sucking in all this is, I mean, Adepticon being blown up, and then freaking this continual separation.
Well, so the funny thing was I finally, out of all of this isolation, I got what I wanted. I got my hobby table. It's not a 4x6 40K standard. It's 3x5, but 3x5 actually taught me something unique and interesting. I didn't realize. I'd gone to Deep Cuts many times and drooled over all their really, really cool mats. And all of the ones that I really liked, because they were Blood Red Skies ones, had clouds. And, I've got their Mig Alley mat with the clouds on it. And it's cool. I like it. But I think if I'd wanted to buy it, I would have bought it without the clouds. Well, you can get all of those mats without the clouds. All you have to do is go on there, select custom. And even if it's still the same size, even if it's 4x6, you can go in there and go, I want Mig Alley with no clouds, or I want Mig Alley with clouds. I want Cliffs of Dover, no clouds. I can't remember if they have a Cliffs of Dover, but they've got a beach one. I want, the Fields map, their British Fields, clouds, no clouds. So I picked up that one with no clouds, and it looks really cool. I actually like it a hell of a lot better than that mat with clouds, and I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't had to go buy a custom size, which was 3x5 for my custom gaming area. So. Yeah, if you don't like the clouds, go order it.
Yeah, I caught in on that a little while ago when I ordered one of mine, and freaking it is. I do like getting them without the clouds because the details just show up, and most of the ones they show on the website have the clouds on them. And I didn't know that was an option, but I was digging around one day and I was, what the hell is this clouds, no clouds? So I actually sent them an email. I says, does that just mean no clouds? They were like, yeah, duh, dude, that's what it says. No clouds.
Exactly. They're like, hey, dumbass. I don't know. In your country, English is the primary language. Apparently, you don't speak it.
But
we're the ones from Estonia, and we know how it's spelled.
Exactly. One of the things I found with gaming tables, I've always had a hard time in this hobby space that I've got in here. Not that I don't have hobby space everywhere, but because of Michigan basements, thank God. But I always wanted to game in the main gaming room where the pool table was. And years ago, we had gotten a set of ping pong table covers that go on top of the pool table. We just never used them. They've been sitting freaking in the storage room forever. And the other day I was like, let me pull those out and check this out. So I put the cover on the pool table, put those up there. Dude, it's like the most epic gaming table ever. So
I've got a couple friends that do that. They have their covers
with like
for
6 inches around the mat, room to set all your stuff on. It's like, dude.
But do you have one of those little pool cue sticks to push your models across the table? Because I know you can't reach the middle of a 4x6 table anyway.
And you put the headset on, and I'm gonna get the little British. I'm gonna hire a little British girl to do it.
Exactly.
Dress up like Winston Churchill.
Oh, well. Yeah, you got to have some fun with what you're doing then. All right, well, that's cool. Well, so we're going to move on from all the stuff that we've seen to our main topic for the night, which is talking to the guys from Fights On, a company that produces terrain and accessories for a variety of air warfare games, but mostly generated around Check Your Six and some of the other hex-based games. So tonight we're joined by the crew from Fights On, Rob and Sandy. Rob, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Sandy, how you doing? It's good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's start with Rob. Tell me how you got started in wargaming.
Well, I think I was 10 years old, and my dad got me a copy of War at Sea for my 10th birthday, which ironically has the battleship USS Texas painting on the cover. And Texas is now parked here in Houston, and we've actually run wargaming fundraising events aboard Texas. So that connection really came full circle. But then I just played board war games through junior high school, and then kind of got away from it for a while and probably about 20 years later in my adulthood, I met the other knucklehead on this call, and he just sucked me right into World War II air combat games.
Well, I might have played War at Sea a time or two. Did you ever play the counterpart Victory in the Pacific?
Oh yeah.
Did you play them together?
No, I never did the grand game.
Yeah, back before Axis and Allies existed, there was the War at Sea plus Victory in the Pacific. So I may have done that before. That's really a naval nerd.
Nice.
Check in the box there. Well, cool. Well, Sandy, why don't you tell me how you got started in wargaming? I mean, did you slip and fall and break your aviator sunglasses and like walk in a game store accidentally, thinking it was Sunglasses Hut? I mean, how does a cool aviator all of a sudden end up playing board games?
It was a long time ago. I walked into the Complete Strategist in New York City, and they were playing Sword in the Flame, which is this brand new set of rules, and it looked really cool.
So that just started you down this slippery slope of more and more gaming, right?
Yep, kids aren't going to college because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Have a lot of really cool miniatures, really good games on the shelf, and that's about it. Well, good. Well, so you guys have Fights On. Tell me a little bit about this partnership called Fights On and what you guys do.
Well, Sandy and I started playing air combat games probably in about 2000. I think it was Red Sun, Blue Sky rules, and then we got into Two Fat Lardy's rule set called Bag the Hun, and then in 2007, Scott Fisher came out with Check Your Six. He's the publisher of Skirmish Campaigns. So Check Your Six was really the first rule set that really brought the air-to-ground element in. So previously, it had just been pure dogfights and bomber intercepts, but now the scenarios, some of them had additional purpose where you were actually dive bombing or you were strafing ground targets. And so one day in my garage, I was just goofing around and I cobbled together some AAA sites and a SAM site because we were getting into some jet rules and we needed an SA2 site marker on the table. So I just made them out of, some hexes I had from Litgo that were just lying around. And I put them together and painted them and showed them to Sandy. And he's like, hey, this is really cool. We could sell these. I was like, what? Why would we do that? We have them. And so I think, Sandy, what was the original name? CTX or something?
I think it was I don't even remember what it stood for, but a lot of this came about. We had some time on our hands, and both Rob and I hate cluttered game tables. And a lot of this stuff came about because of the desire not to have a cluttered game table and cool markers. And we started researching how to do it. And actually, one of our early mentors was Scott Fisher, who gave us some really good pointers on how to start a business and how to do things like that. And took it from there. We started with 3 products. And Rob, how many products are there now?
We probably have over 120 now.
Nice. Well, I notice you have them in a couple different sizes too, depending on what scale the players are operating at. Because obviously some of these games are not tied to a specific scale, so you could have everything from 1/200 to things a lot smaller.
The thing with air games, I believe you refer to as TLAR. Is that correct?
Yes.
That looks about right. Because as you know, being a aviator yourself, it's a fluid environment and it goes from 0 to 50,000 feet, sometimes higher. And so things change with altitude. And so it really doesn't matter how big the piece is. So really what our things are is they fit the standard hexes that people tend to play in, that being 1.5 inch hex, 2 inch hex, or sometimes even people branch out into 3 inch hexes for really large airplanes. So, but the TLAR theory kind of works for all of it. Would you agree, Rob?
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, well, we've gone through that a lot with Blood Red Skies because obviously the aircraft that Warlord produces are 1/200th scale, but the scale of the game is obviously not 1/200th. And I've argued with even Andy himself as to the scale of the game and things like that, just from the pure physics of it. And what we've had to have a discussion a number of times with people is when they say, well, now that we have ground targets, how big should the ground targets be? And I'm like, well, I don't know. How big is your game? How big is your board? How many aircraft are attacking it? So I think what Brett and a number of us on the podcast have done is we generally have 2 or 3 inch markers out there, whether they're just regular acrylic markers or acrylic bases. We've put armored vehicles, maybe micro armor or pico armor style buildings and terrain on there. But I think we've tried to explain to people the reason we're playing with miniatures and playing on these nice gaming mats is to make it look cool visually. You decide what that cool is,
Yeah, to address that, I mean, Pico stuff is great. We really love their products. One of the things that Rob and I came up with was we wanted the ability, no matter what, to put an air-to-air stand on every single piece of gear that we put out, so that you can have the guy flying over the AAA site or flying over the town,
right,
or whatever,
exactly,
without the thing falling over. So we really don't have a whole lot of relief to the figures, just because, and if there is relief, it's at a fixed altitude off the hex, because that allows as long as you have 3 points, the flight stand will stand.
Yeah, we make sure there's 3 points of contact at the highest elevation on every product we make. So your flight stand will always fit on top of the target. That's one of our design principles.
Right. Well, I'd noticed that, like, for your urban hexes and like your power plants and everything, you guys did a really good job of making it such that while it showed some detail, it was obvious, and you show it in your photos. You've got a fighter on a stand right in the middle of downtown. That the intent is to be able to play right over the top of it, which is really nice, because it's always the more terrain you add to some of these air gaming tables, the tougher it makes it to actually do the aviation part of it, because you've got really cool desert huts, you've got really cool buildings, you've got all these other things that you either have to fly around, over, whatever, and you can't precisely track people's location. Now, the good thing is the Blood Red Skies rules are a little different than some of the other ones. There is so much that's generalized in the movement phases and in the actions of Blood Red Skies. A lot of times it's easy if the target is localized. If you just have like a small 2-inch base, just move the fighters a little bit further one way or the other. But I know, especially if you're playing Check Your Six and things that are a lot more precise, that really defeats kind of the purpose of having so much precision in those rules.
Yeah, it's a hex-based rule set, and I think every air combat game we've gone through has always been hex based. So that's why all our products
come to the free living society of no hexes. Well, yeah,
except Wings of War.
Yeah,
except the World War I game. That was not.
Yeah, and I've never played that, but it was funny to me to go from a very free flowing miniatures board game world, like 30K and 40K, but also having a very disciplined hex base background, to then get into Blood Red Skies. And it's not, because like you said, every other aerial war game I'd looked at had been hex based, but with whatever miniatures you wanted to use. And so I think we've all lived through all those nightmares of metallic flight stands, metallic tape measures, magnets in your pivot axis for the aircraft, and all those things sticking together that make us wish it was hex based, so we knew exactly where to put the airplanes back after we knocked them all over.
Speaking of flight stands, that's one of the main products I think I really love, because we call them the Cadillac of the sky flight stand.
Right.
And
I saw those on your site.
It's actually the speedometer of a P-51. We actually got the same font and the same look to it. We got a really, and that part of Fights On is the extended team, right? So, Sandy and I, it's our business, but we have an extended team of support that really help us create some of these products. So we've got a very skilled laser cutting guy that we contract with, who really got the essence of the P-51 speedometer. And then we came up with this system of using magnets to show the heights. And in a game like Check Your Six, there are 12 altitude levels in every game, and you can actually build that.
Which that is one of the things keeping me from picking up Check Your Six.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
But what the beauty of it is, when you're playing Check Your Six, you have to plot your moves, and typically every player has a clipboard. with their aircraft, data sheet and their plot sheet. And the clipboard always has a metal, clamp that holds your paper down. That metal clamp makes a perfect storage place for your magnets. So you have enough magnets to swap out with your flight stand to make all the altitude levels. And because these are rare earth magnets, they literally leap out of your hand onto the flight stand. So it's not fiddly at all. We've experimented with some other systems with telescoping radio antennas and actually having rods that plug into each other, much like a tube with an inside diameter and an outside diameter. And those are just fiddly. It takes too long to adjust your aircraft. But this magnetic system that we have, it is slick.
Well, I have to make fun of Sandy since he is a single-seat Marine F-18 pilot. I mean, did he show up and try to bring one of those extendable pointers that they probably issued him at Top Gun, and did he try to use that as his flight stand? Come on, Sandy, no response to that?
No, I did not, and they did not.
You did not attend Top Gun, or you did not do a
I
flight?
have never attended Naval Fighter Weapons School.
Excellent. You're not one of them.
The original flight stands that came out actually didn't change the altitudes. It just had one arrow for speed and another arrow for altitude. So that's why we like our system, because the only arrow on the flight stand is for speed.
Right.
And altitude is literally controlled with the magnets, and it actually adjusts the height, which makes it look cool, which gets back to why did we create Fights On? We want game tables to look cool.
Well, the stuff on the site is just amazing. And the funny thing for me is, for someone who truly doesn't have a ton of interest to play Check Your Six, it's one of those things that I'm like, I really need to get off my ass and play this game. I need to get into it. I need to learn about it. I need to spend the time. But my problem is when I do that, I don't get drawn down into the World War II terrain or some of the, because I saw there's some cool shots in there with some zeros and things. But as soon as I see the air-to-air missiles, the SAM sites, and then all the desert power plants and railroads and things like that, I go, oh, I could do a lot of Arab-Israeli war gaming.
Well, we've got the Suez Canal,
and we have dice to support you.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, Israeli and Egyptian dice, not bad at all. Yeah. So I had to laugh because it's one of those things, and you may or may not have listened to episodes of the podcast where I talk about my acrylic addiction. I'm kind of the same way about small scale buildings or terrain and stuff like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I could easily spend too much money and build up an armada of those things.
I heard in your last podcast you guys are getting into Vietnam rules. You're going to need a suspected truck park.
Yeah, exactly.
On the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which we sell.
And I saw that, and I was laughing because I think the funny thing for a lot of Blood Red Skies gamers, and it's because the game has been so aircraft centric for so long, that when we tried to explain to people, make your terrain look like something meaningful, there were so many questions. They're like, well, but how big should it be? And it's the case of who cares?
Right.
I don't care if you want to go buy a 1/200 scale train station and put that on the far end of the board.
Go for it.
It's going to mean that everybody on the board can attack it, with a 6-inch bombing radius. But it's one of those things where you say, yeah, put that out there. Do whatever looks cool. And so that's why when I looked at a lot of the stuff, I kind of said to myself, I'm like, yeah, there's some cool terrain there, but this can be a slippery slope. So I have to watch out. But like the train stations, the chain home radar, all that stuff is fine. And if people are wondering if they're like, well, it's hex based, it has a hex on it. Who cares?
Yeah,
put it on a clear acrylic. Does it matter?
Yeah. Because if you paint the edges, it'll blend right in with your beautiful, mats that you guys are doing. Are you guys doing deep cut studio mats?
So we do a couple different ones. We have their Mig Alley map, which we've been doing a lot of stuff on. Did a lot of our Vietnam stuff on that one as well. And it is awesome. I love that mat. I've also used some from Tiny War Games or Tiny Wargaming, their Dover Coast map and a couple other ones. So y'all's stuff would fit in perfectly. And, and it, the funny thing is, detail, I think, is truly one of those eye of the beholder things, because it all comes down to your technique. You can paint a lot of detail and a lot of depth into a relatively detailless model or miniature. you know. And so I'm looking at some of these, like your suspected truck park. I'm like, you guys took way too much time to paint that. You painted it longer than I would have. And I realized it's probably like 3 colors and one wash on there. But no, those look really cool.
It's really not that hard to paint them. We do paint a lot. Some customers request us to paint. We're happy to do that.
It is very hard to paint those.
Yeah. Let's see, dark green, light green, red for the road. And
yeah,
a
pretty
wash.
much. Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
You know, some of our products are actually from customer suggestions. So like Chain Home, that is actually a 3D printed model that we got some support on from a 3D artist. And then we have another guy in New Orleans actually that prints them up for us and drop ships them either to a customer or to me. And that Chain Home really came off the actual technical drawings that I found on basically Google search for the,
that's cool.
the Chain Home towers. And then the Leipzig train station is actually the train station in Leipzig, Germany. And again, that was off of just Google photographs, customer request, and it's also 3D printed. And we're about to release, this is a scoop for you. We're about to release at customer request, the Saint Nazaire docks, you know, in France that were the scene of many bombing raids because it was the dry dock where Tirpitz was before the Channel Dash.
Right.
And that's also a 3D printed product that it's pretty much done. We're sending it to our first customer.
Nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about the materials. You know,
Okay.
I know probably some of your stuff early on has been, you know, resin casts and things like that. And then now you're doing more 3D printing. Can you walk me through how that's kind of evolved?
Sure. Initially, it just started with one type of resin out of a major box store you can find in most cities. And that ended up being kind of a failure because it needed to be a little bit more less viscous in the pouring because you mentioned there's a lot of detail, and the detail wouldn't come in because the thickness of the casting resin wouldn't get into all the nooks and crannies and stuff like that. So there's a huge learning curve with this, and we ended up going to a different product that actually was really non-viscous and would flow really, really well. And there still had to do some, you know, get the air out issues. We're not we don't have one of those, you know, the vacuum systems that sucks all the bubbles out and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm the resin monkey, but I tend to have to do some extra work to get all the air bubbles out to the best of my ability and make the product look as good as possible. But we've gotten it down to where, you know, our shrink is pretty low. We can pretty much put out any product we make pretty easily. But it started with just taking those masters that Rob came up with back in 2009 or whatever it was, and using RTV rubber to make a mold out of it, and just learning how to do that bit by bit, and pouring the resin. Some of the things we do, we actually use a color tint to them. Most of them we don't. It comes out pretty much in white resin. But as time and, you know, schedules get crunched, we have actually, you know, outsourced some of our stuff to an operator out of Washington State, and they do a great job pumping out some of the stuff that we really it's the mundane stuff we use a lot of. And I just have those folks do it for us. Like Rob was saying, we, you know, outsource to a bunch of other folks. And that's helpful to me because I'll do a lot of the PETA products. You can figure it PITA, the ones that kind of give me a
yes, you can say a pain in the ass.
The highbrow products.
Exactly.
The ones that are obnoxious, I generally do myself, and a lot of the ones that are just, you know, ad nauseum products that we just have a lot of, but they're easy to do, we'll outsource them.
It's like the AAA.
Yeah, AAA, all those kind of things get outsourced because that's just, you know, mindless pouring. And I'd rather spend my time making sure that the more intricate ones are poured correctly.
Right.
Because those other ones are going to pour themselves. But anyway, so as time went on, we kind of came to a good product that we tend to use on a regular basis. Ends up being a white resin, and that's about it.
Well, you tint the Sun product because that makes it look cool.
The Sun one I tint, and the World War II bunker complexes I tint with brown, because that's just it's all the way through. So no matter what you do, you're still going to have a base color, a dark brown under there. And the right. Sun product, hell, just hit it with it comes out bright orange. Just hit it with a couple shades of yellow, and it rocks.
Dry brush.
Yeah, just dry brush from yellow, and it kicks it. But
is the sun important in Blood Red Sky? Like where the sun is?
No, so it's not, and that's one of the things that just really isn't factored into the game as an environmental. I mean, there's obviously clouds and other environmentals factored in there. Sun and relative sun position, no, not at all.
Yeah. Because in the scenarios we play in World War II, it doesn't have as much of a bearing. But boy, when you get to Vietnam and you start firing IR missiles, the sun makes a big difference.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, Doug, if you were a fighter pilot, you'd know this. But being as you were just 700 pounds of gas, you don't.
Well, the good thing was I had pilots that, even though they took away 700 pounds of radar, they actually got me to and from the location, so I could spend the time studying, remembering how, various IR scans worked and how to build FM ramping for a missile, things like that you probably didn't study in your ACTI.
No, I don't think those things were invented back when I was a fighter pilot.
Excellent. Oh, Rob, I'm sorry you have to sit here and listen to
all right.
Marines.
I enjoy it.
Have a dick measuring contest. But we know that, Sandy's is smaller because he's a pilot,
It's tough when you come unarmed like yourself.
Another thing I wanted to bring up for your future in Vietnam games is Phyton makes useful products for radar lock markers, and we actually used HUD symbology for the lock-on marker, and then the warning marker is the radar warning receiver, the raw gear.
Right.
Yeah, it's an ALR 67 presentation. You'd recognize it immediately.
Wow.
Yep.
So
it's pretty cool.
Those are very useful, and it could translate into your playtest development, because it's important to know which aircraft is locking up which target.
Oh,
and we actually sell those in different colors, and they're numbered. So when you buy a set of 4, they're just numbered. There's lock on 1, which matches up to warning 1, and you put the warning on the plane you're targeting.
Right. Right.
But then we also sell them in multiple colors. So if you get engagements with more than 4 planes, which often you do, now you can have 8 or 12 different variations.
That's pretty cool.
I'm patting ourselves on the back, but that's one of the best systems I've ever seen. I've seen other people, try and denote radar locks in different styles. Ours, it's clean, and it's the actual symbology, which I think is worth bonus points.
Yeah,
that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, the lock-on's pretty cool because it's the Hornet, square with a diamond inside.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of brings back old times.
Yeah, all those old times. Didn't say good times. We said old times.
Yeah,
We do some of the other markers that we just think are funny, like blacked out pilot is literally a pilot helmet with, X's on the eyes. And let's see, Winchester, you can actually run out of ammunition.
I was looking at all those icons, and that's pretty funny for the turns.
Yeah. And we got a very familiar Pony Express rider icon. Yep. Waiting on that C&D letter to arrive.
Yeah, exactly. No,
right after who produced Top Gun?
Paramount. Yeah,
Paramount,
we're waiting for Paramount, Remington, and Disney.
Winchester.
Winchester and Disney.
Yeah, that's funny.
We will have made it as a company when any one of those letters.
And that's
received.
the thing, if you actually get on their radar at that point, you're like, "Yep, we've arrived. We apparently are enough of a thorn in their side. They care."
Time to quit.
Yeah, exactly. So don't worry about that. But yeah, you obviously have all the custom scenarios and downloads up there, so that's pretty cool for all those dorks that play Check Your Six. Oh, I mean those other people that play other
air
other
combat
games.
And naval. We do naval combat games too. We got surface to air, anti-ship missiles and sea skimming missiles and chaff markers. Those are great in missile boat
apparently,
games.
I hear Sandy was in one of these boat squadrons, so these squadrons that actually cared about those missions, unlike us, K-bar in the teeth Marine dogfighters that flew F-18Ds that didn't care about sea, skimming missiles and stuff.
No, see, you've got me wrong. I avoided. My last pass to the boat was a no grade at night on my initial qual. For those of you who don't understand what I just said, I was tired. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and I didn't care anymore.
Yeah, you were all out of fucks to give at that point.
But I was a qual.
Yep, exactly. That's all that mattered.
It was
I'm so glad.
Right to left, slide across the deck. No grade.
Yeah, no grade. Screw that. I am so glad that Wizzos didn't have to go to the boat. I'm like,
landed.
Fucking God. Just finish up the rag and just send me to the fleet, please. I don't want to do this stupid boat thing.
Down to the dirty shirt for some auto dog.
Yeah, no. I have 24 hours on a carrier, and that was enough. Thanks.
Good for you. Well done.
Yeah, I got to say, I had fun on the Stennis. My brothers from the Black Knights took great care of me, but standing on the Platte at night watching them wave, and I'm like, yeah, there's a reason I don't fucking do this, because it's dumb. This is just dumb.
I loved being on the platform. It was such a cool environment.
I'm sure during the daytime it would be really cool, but literally my only experience was night, because I flew aboard late afternoon, and flew out the next morning to go to Bahrain. But yeah,
no,
not at night.
I was on TR at night on a smooth sea with a full moon, and it was just absolutely gorgeous, and it was just so cool. Yeah. You're getting the LSO platform where the guys stand. If for those who don't know, it's at the back, the stern kind of. If you're facing forward, left side of the stern is where all the LSOs stand. And there's one for each squadrons out there, along with a writer who's taking down notes from the LSO. And you've kind of got a little panel you're kind of hiding behind a little bit, but you still get, when the planes hit the deck, I mean, there's kind of like
they're right there.
a rough surface. Oh, yeah, they're right there. There's a rough surface on the deck, to kind of like a non-skid, and it comes off in little tiny like sand chunks, and they're hitting you from the burner that's throwing it at you, and it's just so cool. And the afterburner, you can just feel it in your chest. It's just reverberating in there. It's just such an awesome feeling. But
yeah, see,
anyway,
thinking about it for a full moon night would be cool.
Oh yeah,
North Arabian Gulf, no moon, pitch black and overcast. Yeah, it was not my idea of a great time. It's dark. I can't see shit until the airplane freaking slams down next to me. I'm like, yeah, this is a dumb idea.
No, yeah, I did 8,000 feet of pitching concrete in Iwakuni, Japan.
Exactly. That's difficult enough for you there. Good old Iwakuni.
Totally.
I love that place. All right, well, moving on. So a couple of the other things I wanted to talk about was that you guys have been working with some of your local Check Your Six players, and I guess there's a campaign they're all doing via Roll20. We've talked Blood Red Skies campaigns, and obviously we're using Tabletop Sim for that, but tell us a little bit about the Roll20.
Well, one of the nice things about Check Your Six is they have all these great scenario books, which anyone could buy and use with any game system. So one of the most recent books published is called the Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club, which is all about the Navy experience in Vietnam in the early period, which I guess was Rolling Thunder, the first campaign.
Yep.
So in that book is several long campaigns, but there's a special mini campaign of 3 linked scenarios that's all one mission. And it was actually a mission to destroy a power plant on the south side of Hanoi by at the time, one of the first smart bombs called the Walleye, which was a glide bomb.
Might have actually employed some of those. I'm sure Sandy has too.
This was, I think this was this was in 1967, and it was a couple A4s. So a series of 3 linked scenarios where literally you fight the ingress mission, then you fight the bombing mission, then you fight the egress. So with COVID and the pandemic hitting, suddenly, we were exploring how do we continue to play our game hobby from home. And one of our guys in Houston is really skilled with online tools and map making. He actually works for a company in the defense sector that builds maps. So he was able to use a product called Roll20, which I'm not familiar with, but it's on the internet, and it is really focused on people gaming Dungeons and Dragons on a desktop virtually together. And then we use Discord, which is another common tool I've learned about for voice communication, like what we're doing. But Andy was able to take imagery. He would just grab a Google image of a top-down view of an A4 Skyhawk and just kind of shrink it, manipulate it, and basically turn it into a counter. And he put a hex grid. And then he and the author of the Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club books, a guy named Tom in Boston, Tom gave him the actual 1960s era maps of Hanoi. And
nice.
Andy was able to take the actual maps and kind of slightly blur them into the background and then put a hex grid overlay. So it kind of like looks like we're flying on top of an air chart.
Nice.
And
that's pretty neat.
Then to have the power plant, we took the Fights On power plant product and he just rescaled a top-down picture of the power plant and plopped it on the virtual game grid. And there's SAM sites and there's AAA sites. Again, we used all Fights On product imagery and got them into the game. And basically, we can play the game, and all of us are in our respective homes, and we have our aircraft plotting sheets on our desks, and we're playing it at the same time, and we're just manipulating the top-down aircraft counters, and then there are some extra features to the counter. You can add in little bubbles with numbers that we agreed that, for example, the green number will be your speed and the red number will be your altitude. We kind of coordinated that. And then he pulled in some imagery for when you light the afterburners, we put a little, kind of flame looking thing behind the jet. And then Fights On, we sell products to mark airframe damage or engine damage, which come up in the game, typically being a black or a white smoke trail. So we put those in the game, and the game handles all dice rolling. So, the various combinations of dice you need to roll for hits or for pilot crew checks or resolving damage. All of that's in the game. So the Roll20 is basically a sandbox, and you can build whatever you want in it. Some people do, dungeons. What we're doing is our favorite air combat game. So I think your community could use this tool as well, but it sounds like you've done tremendous work in Tabletop Simulator, which also sounds just incredible.
Yeah.
And that's a great tool.
It is. And it's funny because they're two very similar yet very different tools. The advantage, and for this week, it's been the disadvantage as we've been troubleshooting models. The advantage of Tabletop Sim is having that 3D view that you can pan around and turn around and look at the models, which has been problematic this week for some of the things we've tried to add. But it's cool because Blood Red Skies is so geared into the miniature pivoting forward, pivoting back to show its advantage state. But we've looked at Roll20 as well, because there's some things that Roll20 just does easier for movement and things like that than Tabletop Sim. So I think there's a lot of cool tools out there. I think really people should just kind of use what they can to be able to play these games.
What I like about Tabletop Sim, I've got that on mine because I wanted to play a little bit more of a American Civil War game called Ultra Freedom. And there's some people who have already worked up just beautiful representations of certain battles.
Yeah.
And you can just pick up a counter. I mean, it looks just like what I have in my house, the exact same kind of figures bases. It's just like a base of figures that some dude put the effort in and made it. And you pick it up and you move it, and it gives you a measurement and everything. Tabletop Simulator, I don't find it as user friendly as I would like, especially being relatively incompetent at these things. But I'm trying to figure out how to use it. I really like the idea of it. And unless you knock the table and then it throws everything in the air, and
right,
hopefully you saved it, and it'll just set it back up to where you had it. But no, but I really like the idea of zooming in, zooming out, spinning it, that kind of stuff, being able to see things. That to me is pretty user friendly.
We've been fortunate because there's so many other user-built games that have 3D models of World War II aircraft, and so whether it's an Axis and Allies mod, things like that, we can go out there and we can find those models. We already have the cards that we need to play the game, and so it makes it pretty easy to just transition to moving those models around in Tabletop Sim. But sometimes it can be a challenge like anything else, especially trying to make it intuitive for everybody, because not everyone is a Tabletop Sim expert. So you want to make it so that people can get in and start moving their miniatures around and shooting other fighters down pretty darn quick.
Are you guys thinking about promoting an event maybe for new players or players that have never played Blood Red
Funny
Sky?
you're mentioning that. So, yeah. So if anyone listened to our last episode of the podcast, we were talking about Gathering of Eagles. Now, we had all thought maybe, just maybe, there's an outside chance the first week of June things will have released enough that we can get people traveling. We know that's not going to happen for the entire U.S. So we don't want to be only available for people in the Indianapolis area, or only people who can, drive a short distance, or, God forbid, the number of cases changes in Indianapolis and the mayor disagrees with the governor, and now we have an event that we're not sure we can hold. So the first weekend in June, and it's one of those things where you sit there and you go, what's the first weekend in June? I'm going to go, come on, history buffs. Nobody knows what the first weekend in June is. The 5th, 6th, and 7th of June? Yes, D-Days. So,
I was going to say Midway.
Yeah. Well, I have this problem with history. People like to keep having battles on the same fucking couple days. I don't know what it is. But it makes writing scenarios for events easier. But so we're going to have a virtual, right now, one day, kind of Blood Red Skies virtual gathering. And if any of your people aren't Blood Red Skies aficionados, or any of the people listening to this podcast aren't, because you've listened to us talk to Dan Verson or other people that aren't doing Blood Red Skies stuff, or like the Fights On crew here who's doing stuff for Check Your Six. We have not just intro seminars where you get to hear a talking head like me talk about tactics, or what kind of aircraft are good in the game, what kind of aircraft look pretty on a stand but don't perform well. We'll also have a lot of people in Tabletop Sim playing the starter kit. And so it's no different than a demo game at a regular convention. You'll be able to hop into Discord and hop into the demo game room, find out who's ready to show how to play Blood Red Skies, and then hop into Tabletop Sim. You will need Tabletop Sim, which is like $19 now, but I think just about every gamer out there during coronavirus has now bought Tabletop Sim. So if you haven't, go pick up
Buy
a
stock
copy.
in Steam.
Yeah, exactly. So I have found it funny that Berserk Games is so hard to get a hold of, the actual developers of Tabletop Sim that put it on Steam, because they're so darn busy. But it's kind of interesting trying to work with those guys. But I digress. So we'll have demo games. You can come check it out. It's virtual, so it means you're not traveling. You show up and spend 20 minutes pushing virtual airplanes around. You go, yeah, I'll go back and play Check Your Six, or yeah, this isn't that exciting. I don't like all the fiddly models.
I'm happy playing anything with cool guys. I don't care.
Well, see, the problem is we're not all standing around drinking beer. We'll be drinking beer at the same time while we're virtually standing around.
I'll bring my own.
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely would love to have a lot of people who don't know what Blood Red Skies is about. And if you say, well, how am I going to keep track of this? No, we don't own the Gathering of Eagles domain name. But hey, leadpursuit.net, where the Lead Pursuit podcast is, you can always go there and find information about it. Or you can go on Facebook, look up Lead Pursuit Podcast, and I swear it's like every other post of mine, I think, is about Gathering of Eagles these days. But we're going to do a virtual one first, and maybe this fall, if environments have changed, we may do a live in-person gathering. But it's a great chance for people to come out and try stuff. And for guys like you, especially when we do start doing it more as a traveling kind of thing, hitting different locales, link up with us, bring some of your stuff, throw it out on the table, and that way people can see what y'all's terrain looks like inside a Blood Red Skies game, and how it's really value added at that point, instead of just us going out and bombing an acrylic marker at the end of the table.
Yeah, that'd be great. because that's what we're about, is giving you attractive things to blow up and destroy.
I like that because I'm really tired of bombing acrylic. That gets a little old after a while. But I do what I have to do because I haven't built as many of the targets as Brett has. So, well, cool. Anything else, you guys, before we wrap this up? I know you guys have been busy today. There was a Blue Angels flyover. I'm sure you guys were taking photos of that and out there being aviation nerds watching all that go on. But
it was awesome. Yeah, I came right across downtown Houston, circled the Med Center, and then scooted out to Sandy's house on the west side. It was great.
Nice.
No, I'm good. I think we've covered history of the company, what we're here for, and if anybody's interested in our products, check out the website, which is on the web at fightsonstore.com. Maybe Lead Pursuit podcast would put us down as a resource.
Yeah, we'll throw you on the resources page on our website. And I can't wait to get my Midway terrain in hand to check that out.
Yes.
And if they type in like Lead Pursuit, maybe that can be like a discount code. What do you think? Rob?
We can do that. We can offer a special discount.
But they would probably not be able to spell the word pursuit. So
no, we don't have any Harrier pilots in our group. They're all Hornet pilots.
That's kind of close to that.
Lead P. Let's just leave it at that.
That'd be a lead P.
Yeah, exactly.
Lead P. Nice.
That's probably what fighter pilots have after eating paint chips in the ready room when they're talking about themselves.
It's crayons, man. Get it right. It's crayons.
Oh, well, it's been awesome having you guys on the show.
Thanks, Doug.
Look forward to linking up with y'all in person at one of the events when things calm down around here, and definitely look forward to seeing some of your terrain up close, and definitely using Midway in our next series of battles, because that's where Blood Red Skies is going this summer, maybe late fall or early fall, with their Midway box set release. And so having pre-done Midway Islands out there will be nice for people to be able to.
Awesome, you bet. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Doug.
No worries, take it easy, guys.
75, brother.
Hoorah.